Welcome to the OneTake podcast. If you're new to the channel and you've just been listening to the What Blanks Are Really About, this is the face. This is the face behind those videos.
You gotta hook people in more. John Wick, action.
I mean, they know it's John Wick from the title.
Yeah.
And they see the beginning.
But you know how people are. They click on the video, they forget what it's even about.
Well, he's really talking about John Wick in this video.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah, for the algorithm. John Wick Chapter 4. John Wick 4. John Wick Chapter 4. Ending explained.
Gotta do the misspellings too. Like John...
Ending
Wink.
Explained.
John Wink Chapter 4.
This is an awesome movie, right?
What?
Awesome movie.
Yeah.
I loved it.
Anyone here not like it?
Get out.
Get out of here.
No, I liked it. Why is everyone looking at me?
I don't know.
I do have some opinions. You know,
Well, because-
things that I think... There are actually a lot of things I wish they did differently.
Okay.
But I still love the movie.
Why don't we start with that? Let's start with
Okay.
the what's great
Here's-
about it, and then we can ease people into development.
All right. Well,
needs.
the action obviously was amazing. Choreography amazing. The creative deaths, creative kills, awesome.
Hot take: John Wick, good action.
In my opinion, the music was really good.
Yeah.
Like really stood out to me more than in prior movies. Although maybe I was paying more attention.
We saw it
for
in IMAX, and I feel like what I noticed more than the screen's bigger was the audio.
At first, I had a hard time hearing what people were saying. Actually,
Which I've always had that problem with the John Wick movies. In the first one, I left the theater to actually say to the manager, whoever was working there, like, I think the sound mixing or something is off with I can barely hear the dialogue. So, there you go.
I didn't have issues hearing dialogue in this movie, although to be fair, there was not much dialogue.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
true. Yeah, I was thinking about
actually,
it.
at the end of the movie, I said I think John Wick killed more people than words that he said.
That's probably true.
Definitely.
It does, the way he talks, it almost sounds like it's hard to get words out. Yeah. I'm thinking I'm back.
Yeah, it's like there's something. He has like a stricture in his throat where it's like hard to get sound out.
I mean, he must be like winded. Like killing that many people, he's got to be exhausted. Like it must be hard to talk after.
You think how long does he sleep at night? Do you think?
Does he ever sleep?
We can
these
go
movies?
based off of Bruce Wayne. He's trained himself to only need 3 hours of sleep a night. I've got to think John Wick is equal or better.
That brings me to a criticism.
Okay.
This felt a little bit like a Batman movie.
How
Or like
so?
it felt a little bit like a super. First
Because
of all,
Penguin was in it?
Penguin, yeah, the German, the big German guy.
I think Killa, I
He
think
felt
was
like a
his name.
supervillain.
Yeah.
And it got a little more self-referential and silly a lot of the time, more than I wanted.
See, I thought...
They pulled it off well. It was done well. If that's what they were going for, it was executed well, and it made me laugh a lot. But I didn't really want to laugh that much. I wanted to have like a feeling of boiling rage and desire for vengeance.
I'll
Motivation.
say I think they've been leaning into that kind of comic book feel since the first one, but more and more with each movie.
I agree more, and to me and I think it's a matter of personal preference, because I think to a lot of people this is probably making it more appealing.
Right.
You know? But to me it was more than I wanted.
Yeah, you didn't want a big guy that you can punch a million times and he doesn't die, and he's got the gold teeth and he's ripping his teeth out.
It's okay, but when he's like, "Why won't you die?" Like that's such a classic.
He never actually
never
said
said
that.
that,
He
right?
said something like that.
I don't
think he said anything.
Yeah, I don't
He
think said
screamed
anything.
something. He screamed something to that effect.
I think somebody in our theater screamed that. They were singing it off.
I don't know, but it was a little bit too over the top.
It was definitely joking.
Or at one point he was like, "You shot my ass" or something.
He did say that, yeah.
I don't
Killa
know.
said that.
It's just like that's what I was talking about.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. It felt a little too much like a joke.
You're right. He did say something like, "This guy just won't die."
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. We should say right now, by the way, right? Are we going to talk spoilers?
Absolutely.
Just starting.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, okay, here's something to me, like the farthest into like superhero movie territory that John Wick went, like in the first one, and in terms of being kind of comedic, was when he was like, he killed 4 men with the pencil.
Yeah.
You know? But it's actually something they're actually terrified of him because of that. Here it was like people weren't scared of him so much as it was just like, I don't know, it was as if like Captain America was there. So, like, I don't know.
How about the blind man stabbing that guy with a pencil randomly, by the way?
Oh, yeah.
Like he just pulled a pencil out of his pocket.
Yeah, I
and
was like,
stabbed
where
him.
did the pencil come from?
I remember him putting that pencil in his pocket at
Really?
one point.
Really?
Yeah, he had a notebook and a pencil, and I was like, that pencil's coming out later. I also loved Kane, played by why all of a sudden I just forgot.
That's the blind assassin, right?
Yeah, that's right. Okay. Donnie Yen.
Because he has.
He was great.
Ip Man.
Oh, that's Ip Man.
One of the most famous Hong Kong action stars. When he put up those little motion detectors.
Oh, I was like, okay. I was like theorizing. I was like turning and like predicting what those were, and I was like, are they like emitting sound? Is he using sonar to see?
Yeah.
You know, and then at one point he went like, and I thought like he was like trying to, you know, like make these clicking sounds so you could build the 3D map. And then it turned out just to be doorbells.
Yeah.
Okay, wait. So he
like that kind of humor that I'm fine with because it actually fits and makes sense, and he's actually using it strategically. But it also made me laugh.
Yeah, the humor you don't like, I think, is when it's a grave situation, your life is on the line, and you're like, this guy won't die.
Yeah,
he shot my ass.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Or even like I liked Mr. Nobody a lot. Like he was a very likable character for a lot of reasons. So, and it's not the character's fault, but like even during like the final duel, when they would cut to him and have him react in ways that kind of added levity, I was like, again, it makes sense, and I could actually see him having that reaction. But to cut from this tense moment to show him like chuckling or giving commentary, it's like it took me out of the moment a little.
I see it.
Yeah, that did reduce the tension a little bit.
Yeah, it didn't. To me, it felt really appropriate because it's like that's the reaction we're having. It's almost like an audience surrogate, and I guess I don't know that necessarily helps it or hurts it, but it felt organic to me.
I wouldn't say it
felt
hurts
very
it.
in character too, and it
I
didn't
agree.
feel like reality breaking at all.
I think what I'm expressing, it's not a criticism of the movie. It's just what I want from these movies.
Yeah.
You know, it's like if in like Rocky, like when, you know, the scene in this, what is it, the second one where he's getting up and like Apollo Creed looks
That's
like
the first
baffled.
one.
When he looks baffled that Rocky's getting up. And then it cuts to like someone at home who's like, man, this guy's like some kind of Terminator.
It's like the Truman Show. When he's finally escaping and everything, and it cuts to that guy in the bathtub who's been watching him the whole movie.
I remember. Yeah.
Yeah. It's
like a
funny.
little too silly.
I feel like you don't have the ability to just talk positives. I feel like what you really want to talk about. You loved this movie.
I
right?
loved it.
Yeah, but it's just hard for you to say a lot about that. Besides, the action was awesome. You really want to just get into the
Glass
stuff.
half empty.
He always gets us in trouble with this.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Well, I'll cut all this out. It's fine.
Yeah.
Every time.
This is just for my own benefit. You're all humoring me with this.
Wait, back to the sound mixing stuff. Did anyone else think when he was fighting the random henchmen guys, like in Osaka,
Those uniforms were cool, by the way.
They were
because
really
they
cool.
looked like ballistic samurai.
They were
masks
so
were
cool.
awesome.
I kept, like, every time he hit them, I thought I was hearing them curse. Like, just expletives over and over being like S word getting hit.
It's like a video game where they're just like, they spit out a random dying word.
You will die.
I swear I was hearing that, and I was curious if anyone else thought they heard that.
No.
I think that was the one sitting next to you.
Maybe I was imagining it.
Going back to just
No,
how
that's weird.
it's actually making me uncomfortable to sit next to you right
He's
now.
like, in fact, anytime I look at a television screen, I think they're talking to me.
Yeah, anyone hear random cursing right now? Just talking about, I thought it would be nice to just bask in the action for a bit and just talk about what was awesome about it. Like one thing I loved that I found a little corny, I think in the second one when they first introduced the armor suits. I'm like, that just feels like a cheat code because now I can get shot.
But they like played it realistically where it actually affects the choreography of the fights. You know, they're grabbing the suit and going like this.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Like he did it a lot.
Well, so the big difference is it's not just John that has it.
Yeah.
Now everyone has it.
Yeah.
So it just adds this new dynamic to all the fights. So every time you come around a corner, you're holding up your suit jacket like this.
Yeah.
I never got sick of seeing people do this. It was so funny.
Just people blocking bullets with their arms and stuff was so cool.
I think that the choreography was perfect because it would be easy to watch these movies and be like, if there's such a thing as bulletproof suits, first, why wouldn't everyone have one? And second, don't you think you would actually try to use it like to your advantage? And they were doing it as if how people would in real life.
And then every time he takes his jacket off,
you just hear everything falling out.
Yeah, all the shells, all the bullets or whatever.
That was awesome.
John Wick uses nunchucks.
Yes. That was cool. And I especially liked when he was dual wielding. He had a nunchuck in one hand and a gun in the other. Like, I don't think we've ever seen that in a movie.
And then every time he puts it back around his neck, first he does this like
There's all
And
this
I'm like,
extra flourish.
I don't know what the benefit of doing that is or why he's doing that, but it was awesome.
They always look for a reason to have John Wick fight in a museum so he can use a weapon he otherwise wouldn't have to use,
Yeah.
which is cool.
Speaking of which, we also saw some sword fighting, which was really cool between Kane and Koji specifically. The head of the Osaka Continental was a great fight scene. And one thing I've never been a fan of in the first 3 John Wicks is they tended to build up to a final 1-on-1 or 1-on-2 brawl. And after everything else you see in the movie, I'm like, it's just cooler to see John Wick versus 100 people than John Wick versus one person. But in this movie, I never got that feeling. I thought all the one-on-one stuff was great. There was no fight scene that I didn't like. And it's amazing that there's a 3-hour action movie. I never got exhausted. I never got tired.
Well, they introduced, they like mastered the craft of like engaging action. Yeah. Because first of all, they're always mixing up like styles of combat, the weapons that they're using, and what they really did well in this was the different allegiances. Like you see Kane fighting in a way where he has no interest in actually killing these people. He just basically needs to disable them and get them out of the fight. But you saw like he fought with his sword sheathed for a lot of the time because he's like, I just need to hit them and get them knocked out, basically. Like I have no interest in decapitation. And then also the fact that they end up fighting together so that they can make it to the duel on time, and then they have to fight each other. Like they found ways of mixing things up and adding variety and like making you invested in multiple different sides so that the action was never boring.
Oh, by the way, Kane sabotaged John Wick at the end, right? He purposely stabbed his shooting hand.
I think so, because then he said like, now we're even or something.
Yeah, and then John Wick had to shoot with his left hand, and I assume he's a righty, right?
I did feel like Kane is at a bit of a disadvantage in the final duel.
I know.
I guess the nice thing is
couldn't John just like be ducking?
Well, I was going to say, I think you're walking in a straight line, so it's like he can't dodge to the side.
But he could duck. Or what if he just laid down flat?
Well, if he ducks, he might have got shot in the head instead of the stomach.
That's true.
But we'll get
What if he
there.
bent over facing away from him, so that is, kind of the meatiest part?
Well, he could have tried the Matrix move of like leaning back. That could have gone really poorly too, though.
Also, how cool was that? The ending setup, though, of having to fight up those stairs, I thought was genius.
Right.
Like, that was so cool.
When he fell down the stairs, I was laughing a lot, but in retrospect, it felt a little like too silly.
See, I disagree.
I don't
you know?
think
Now,
silly.
I'll say if they turned it into like, if they made then his uphill battle afterward more like he has to really dig deep and like summon all the willpower he has and like go into slow-mo and show it from his perspective, like Rocky getting up.
Right.
But it didn't feel like that.
Yeah, I guess it felt more like there's no way he was going to get up by himself.
Yeah,
Kane
so
shows up
they
and helps
did
him.
set it up for, there was a payoff, and like
Yeah.
Kane showing up and them working together was a good payoff. But I guess the thing, all right, part of the message of this movie was that he can't do all this alone, and he can't be a lone wolf. Like, one of the constant themes is the importance of like loyalty among people, how John having a moral compass saved his life, and it saved Mr. Nobody's life. Like, first of all, he chose not to shoot Mr. Nobody. He chose to save his dog instead, right? And then that ended up saving John because Mr. Nobody couldn't bring himself to kill him for the money anymore, right? So a lot of this is about like the interdependence between people and like loyalty and honor. But I also want more of the lone wolf thing of like just being fueled purely by vengeance.
Yeah, I think this is all a commentary on just the emotions that you're feeling, what you're going through right now in life.
Exactly. Which is why this is not a criticism against the movie, but there's probably other people who I think were looking for something similar as me. Not that I was expecting it, because I think the movies have been gradually going in this direction, like one by one. Even in the first one had Willem Dafoe, right?
Yeah,
like
Marcus.
that was his like guardian angel.
Yeah,
right?
he was watching him from afar with a sniper, saved his life on multiple occasions.
Yeah. How cool is it in the first one when he saves his life he needs to warn John that someone's coming into the room to kill him, and so he fires a few bullets like inches from his head.
Yeah, onto his pillow.
Yeah.
He was like asleep.
Yeah.
And that's when Miss Perkins was breaking continental rules to go after him. Which, by the way, just speaking of the first movie, and so Marcus was killed, but you know who wasn't? Aurelio, the mechanic. You forget.
Oh, yeah.
John Leguizamo was in the first John Wick.
Yeah.
He had a very small role in the second one, and apparently he was supposed to have a bigger role and like really get in on the action. They cut a bunch of his scenes, and then I think for John Wick 3, if I remember correctly, he was cut out entirely, and now he's not even here anymore.
I wonder why.
Yeah, it's kind of a bummer because I mean, there's plenty of continuity, especially with Winston, but I almost feel like the more the better would have been cool. But who knows? I can't comment on any of the stuff you just said because that would be spoilers for what John Wick Chapter 4 is really about, obviously.
Why are you even here?
Yeah. But you touched on something I really enjoyed, which I think there's a lot of kind of Western influence on this movie. I mean, it ends in a one-on-one duel, obviously. But also you think about like the good, the bad, and the ugly and stuff
and
like
the horseback.
it starts with the horseback. The whole idea of John, Kane, and Mr. Nobody, kind of three people all going on the same journey together, and they're sometimes opposed, but sometimes circumstance brings them together.
And you understand. None of them feel like the bad one, right? Like, if anything, I think Kane had the most motivation of anyone. Like, if the story was told from his perspective, we would be rooting for him, you know?
And that's one of the biggest compliments you can give is that I would watch a movie about Kane. I would watch a movie about Mr. Nobody.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if they intended this to be backdoor little pilots for different spinoffs.
Could be.
But if they did, I would be all for it.
I feel like part of you get multiple benefits from Mr. Nobody's character because not only is he just a very sympathetic character, but he even has the dog, which is like this. This is one of the top 10 movies for dog lovers, like the John Wick series. It's like Air Bud, John Wick. But also, it actually added suspense because I'm like, in theory, if John Wick dies, you can carry on the series with this guy now. Like, they wouldn't try to replace him necessarily, but it would be like a way of continuing the universe just with a new character. And like that actually legitimately adds suspense because in some contexts it's easy to be like, okay, there's no way this character can actually be dead because if I think about it outside of the story, like there's too much incentive to continue with the character. But in this, like if they made a Mr. Nobody spinoff and John Wick ended
which would
with
be
this,
very confusing considering the writer
they're the Nobody.
Yeah, the writer
Nobody.
of John Wick, Derek Kolstad, made the movie Nobody.
Yeah.
But anyway,
it did add it wasn't a huge factor, but it did add an extra little bit of believability that this could be the end because the series doesn't have to end. Exactly.
Right. They basically in the movie showed you a way they could continue the franchise without John.
Yeah.
And it makes you think
it ups the stakes a little. I don't think he's dead.
Well, let's get to that. I can't comment because I'm coming out with John Wick 4 ending explained, but you look like you wanted to say something.
I was going to say, why would they kill John Wick? Like, does Keanu Reeves not want to do
more
of these?
I'd say we get to that later. Let's save that. We'll go into, let's talk about the ending.
What about the post-credits?
Well, we'll talk about that too.
Okay. What can we talk about now?
Well,
the movie.
Yeah, we can talk about let's go scene by scene. I'm going to, I want to talk about the action a little bit more.
The action was awesome. A lot of Brazilian jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, I wanted to get your thoughts on that.
So
I saw an omoplata at one point.
There was an omoplata at one point.
Once the omoplata happened,
I knew Daniel would love that.
Yeah, my girlfriend tapped on my shoulder and she was like, jiu-jitsu.
Yeah,
and I'm like, yeah, I know.
I love the omoplata.
I don't know if you guys know this, but Daniel does Brazilian jiu-jitsu.
And he's extremely
and
jealous
he wants
of me.
You to know.
Because I learned and I confirmed that he still is subscribed. But one of the biggest people in the world of jiu-jitsu.
Oh, yeah.
Eddie Bravo, if you're watching this.
Shout out to Eddie Bravo.
He's a subscriber to OneTake. And I did check the other day. He's still subscribed.
Wow.
He's going to be like, I didn't know he's an unsubscriber.
Yeah. How did this
that
happen?
was private information. It's publicly listed. So that's why I felt comfortable saying it. Don't worry, Eddie. But go ahead, Dan. What's an omoplata? Get on the table and demonstrate.
It's when you spread your legs at someone.
Adam, get into my omoplata so I can show everybody. No, so an omoplata is a move where you have somebody's arm between your legs, and it's a way to break their shoulder. It's possible I'm defining exactly the omoplata wrong, but that's one version of the omoplata.
I actually thought it was when you get on your back and spread your legs at someone.
So that's guard. That's the guard.
Okay.
That's what he does.
He goes, get into my omoplata, and then he if this is his legs, he just sits there like this with his legs in the air.
I can't remember if he actually ended up in the guard position with anybody. He might have at some point. He did get I think he had Mr. Nobody in a rear naked choke. Right?
I didn't see any nudity.
I think he had control.
Actually, there was that painting.
I might be
The lady's top was coming.
Oh yeah,
I might be confusing different scenes, but I think John Wick
from that video I was watching last night.
I think John Wick had back control on Mr. Nobody and was choking him out, and then he stopped choking him to save the dog. Right? I think that's what happened.
What you could call that if it was an adult spinoff.
What?
Instead of a W in John Wick.
yeah. I got
Anyway,
it.
isn't that what happened though? He was choking Mr. Nobody, right? And then he stopped choking him to save the dog.
No, I think he was actually they weren't making physical contact when that happened. They were across the room from each other.
So there was a scene where he was choking Mr. Nobody and then stopped at some point. Oh, maybe it was
no matter how hard you imagine this, it will not will it into existence.
He definitely had a rear naked choke on somebody at some point.
It's very hard to remember the specifics of the action because there's so much happening.
Yeah.
So, but generally though, the action was amazing. It combined like gunfighting, sword fighting, and jujitsu.
Bow and arrow.
Like, it was so cool. The bow and arrow was really
Remember
cool.
when that guy's like knee got attached to the wall and then he got shot in the head and he fell, but his leg was still stuck to the wall?
You know, in some ways it felt like a greatest hits because I remember they added the armored people from the high table where you have to shoot them in the head like 7 times to kill them. You had that. Oh, and by the way, every time John threw a gun at someone, that happened like at least 10 times in the movie.
Yeah,
it was awesome.
Yeah, and he reloads. Like that's one thing that all these movies have to get such a compliment for.
He does it so fast too. It's like really impressive.
How about when he got the incendiary rounds?
Those were so cool.
Yeah. Which, by the way, that happened in this awesome top-down sequence.
That was cool. At some point, I was like, "This feels like a run and gun video game."
Yeah, Robotron.
I don't know.
Just one. I think it's one of those games where it's top-down. And you can pick which direction you're shooting.
It was really cool because it was so well choreographed. Because when they did that top-down view, you could see so much happening at once. Like there was the one scene where he's like hiding behind a table, and there are 3 guys running at him.
Oh yeah, yeah.
One on
guy
either side
runs
of the table,
over the table,
and one on top of the table. That was so cool.
Yeah. It's so good because they realize it's not about just doing more each time. It's all about
creativity.
It's just doing new things that we haven't seen before in action. It's so hard to enjoy any other action after seeing John Wick.
How can you watch like an Avengers movie and be like the action was a high? I can't remember a single fight in any of the. How many Avengers movies were there? 4?
4 now, yeah. Avengers.
I watched
and like 30
all
movies
4 of them,
it.
probably like at least 2 times each. I cannot recall a single fight scene.
Okay, I will say I think if you were to rewatch the first Avengers, what you would realize is that where they add value is in taking people with different abilities and finding interesting ways to sort of combine them. So they do bring a creativity that's
just that doesn't interest me.
I hear you. That's fine if it doesn't interest you. But yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say the thing with this movie, right, is like Keanu Reeves is doing incredibly cool stuff.
Yeah.
Like you have to give so much credit to all the stuff he's doing. Like athletically very impressive.
Yeah.
Right? He's doing a ton again of like really cool jujitsu moves, like all these takedowns that are integrated with like him also shooting people at the same time. Like really impressive, cool stuff.
See, that's one thing you couldn't get from a Marvel movie.
Because their powers like would make all that stuff pointless.
Yeah, and even where there probably are stunt people doing really impressive things, it just doesn't come. Your brain doesn't interpret reality through all these crazy CGI filters and all of the cuts and the necessary and obvious use of stunt doubles. Like John Wick, he definitely has stunt doubles, but a lot of the stunts are him doing them. In a lot of the fighting, it's clearly Keanu Reeves.
Does he have stunt doubles? I mean, he does.
I think there are certain things that he doesn't do. Like, I can't say this for sure, but I think there's no way they would have let him go down the stairs like that.
Yeah, probably. He does most of the fighting.
Yes.
I think we know that.
That's true, yeah.
I don't think they would have had a human do all those stairs. Like, they probably had someone do one and then just copied and pasted it.
We'll see. Stunt person's probably watching like, you fools.
How dare you?
But it is cool though that like he really does feel like a human being the whole time, which is not what you feel like in the Avengers.
That's what I'm saying.
Like you feel the damage his body is taking.
Remember when he jumped out of like the 3-story building on, and it's like, oh, it's okay, guys. He landed on a truck or he landed on a van.
You see the way the van is so bent inward, the force with which you must have hit that truck. And yeah, that was one thing I found really funny. The number of times he felt from such a
how many times he got hit by a car.
Wait, I have to say
actually that fight scene where he kept getting hit by cars.
And the Arc
really
de
good.
Triomphe around that.
Arc de Triomphe.
There you go.
I feel very embarrassed that when he meets with the Marquis to plan the duel for the next morning, I legitimately thought like, all right, he's like gonna go to sleep now, wake up in the morning,
No.
get ready for this
Yeah,
duel.
yeah. And it's like, well, there's no reason for them to stop trying to kill him before that.
I feel so embarrassed that I actually thought that's what was gonna happen. Wait, what was when they were planning the duel? The last thing they decided on was quarters.
No
And he
quarter.
said no quarter.
I think that means like someone has to die. I
Yeah,
think
that's
that's that
what I
means.
thought,
You
too.
can't like spare their life or something.
So
yeah. No quarter means no one's taken prisoner. You're going to be killed.
I thought quarters meant like a place to sleep, and I was like, why wouldn't you take that so you don't get killed?
Quarter.
night
We're not
before.
going to provide a hotel.
Yeah. So the whole time I'm like, why did he say no to quarters?
Daniel was watching a whole different movie. He's like, oh, they're going to be
Are they going to be able to sleep in the same bed?
Leading into the duel, there was that whole DJ thing where basically,
Yeah.
okay, so I heard mixed opinions from this group.
I didn't like it, but if they're gonna do something like that, it was well executed, and it fit the vibe of the movie. So again, it's more just me going into it looking for something a little different, but I see how it fits. But to me, again, kind of took me out of it a little bit. I think if they didn't cut away from the action to show it, and instead kept the music and maybe had the voiceover, it would have been a little bit fit. It would have fit a little better for me.
Well, and as I recall, they didn't typically interrupt the action. It was
It was
more
like
like,
between set pieces.
yeah, he would fight a bunch of people here, and then he's on the move.
Yeah.
They would announce where he's going.
It felt a little too much like breaking the fourth wall.
Okay. See, for me, it felt like I was already getting a sort of, I almost felt like I was at a concert, especially we saw it with a big crowd and people were yelling, but at the right time.
Yeah, not
was
not in a way that bothered you.
Right. It enhanced the experience.
And he's really easily bothered by that.
very easily bothered. Yeah. And I started to feel like I was at a concert where it was just like one set piece after another.
Yeah.
And so I guess to your point, that is kind of fourth wall breaking, but I enjoyed it. It was like, let's set up here's the next place we're going. Let's cue the music. And I just
I will say
fun with
the
it.
music itself was awesome and fit really well. And like, it's not, to me, it's not a big deal that it was the lead up to it was, or what is it, diegetic? Because they're actually playing the sound.
It's true. The diegetic
So
sounds.
like they gave a reason for it to be kind of choreographed with the music and everything. I guess I just didn't need third-party commentary.
You just wanted, I mean, all of your criticisms, not criticisms.
I want to be able
but
to put myself into John Wick's position and just feel like my blood boiling for vengeance.
You wanted just a serious, dark revenge,
with
angry.
I want with moments of humor, but in ways like Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul were both very funny shows without ever breaking the fourth wall or getting meta.
Right.
This got meta kind of and like in ways that I think it weren't necessary.
I don't think the DJ thing was meta.
It makes sense because
it makes sense,
she's
exactly.
announcing, like basically in this universe, 50% of the human population are assassins.
Well, there's an
right?
independent culture of assassins, and of course they'd also have their own radio stations to communicate. Of
course
stuff.
they would.
But like it makes.
She wasn't
sense.
even at first. She was like communicating in code, and by the end, it was like not even code anymore.
Yeah.
She's like, "Go kill John Wick here."
Yeah.
Well, yeah, the response that you'll get is they didn't break the fourth wall. Like, there's an explanation for
true.
it. It's not, you're not literally saying
It
that.
gave me that feeling.
It gave you that feeling because the movie is so closely matching what you're feeling in real life, and then doing a kind of fourth wall breaking thing, but adding an explanation for why it would happen in the reality of the movie. And of course, it's a very different tone. I mean, it's a different tone than the first one.
For sure.
I would say like that DJ showing up in the first John Wick
Would have been out of place.
would have been like whiplash. Like, what is this? Yeah.
I'll say I don't have a really strong opinion of it either. Like that's how I felt at the time. For all I know, if I was in a different, not that I was in a bad mood or anything, but just a different mood, and when I went to see it, maybe I would have liked that part.
Right.
And that's just to say I didn't have a really strong opinion of it, but it felt a little out of place from what I was like hoping for.
So like for me, it fit perfectly because I think this John Wick 4 was just such a spectacle. Like way more so than like any other movie I feel like I've seen in like forever. Like Avengers is like a spectacle in that it's like, all right, how much like BS CGI can we shove into a movie, right? Whereas this was like just
It's a spectacle you could actually feel invested in.
Yes.
Yeah, I felt invested in Endgame. I'll just say that.
See, I did not at all. Did you actually?
I just think somebody on the
Someone has to defend
I'm
it.
MCU timeline guy.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Look, I like the timeline. I just
Yeah.
don't like the movies.
No, I will say, I mean, this is not a video about the MCU, but I did genuinely enjoy Endgame. I have some complaints about it. But
I mean, I liked a lot of the movies leading up to it, but then by the time I got to Endgame, everything felt so over the top. I just couldn't really care anymore.
yeah.
That's sort of what happened.
Let's talk about John Wick.
Yeah.
What movie?
Why are you trying to bum us all out? Let's talk about Quantumania.
I loved John Wick 4. I just want to say that again. It
I
was
love the
so
dog.
Amazing. Yeah,
The dog was awesome.
great.
I have another criticism.
Yeah,
Wait,
okay.
When it pissed on the German guy.
Yeah.
Well, again, it's
Yeah.
just too like. Okay, when in the moment I laughed and I thought it was funny, but then I was like, it's just
I'm
like
gonna
a
do
little silly.
I'm gonna do the Adam cut
Yeah.
of John Wick 4. Once they come
It's
out,
gonna make it sound like I hated the movie.
once it comes out with the director's cut and all the additional footage, I'm gonna like cut out any moment of levity whatsoever, and I'll give you that version.
And no dialogue for John Wick, just killing. How about the fact that the dog would attack whatever body part he commanded?
Oh, you're just nuts.
Yeah, that was pretty awesome.
I mean, that was really the main one he said.
I have to say, I was very relieved when the dog attacked that German guy's nuts, and then he shot the guy in the head shortly after. I was like, that was nice of him
He used
to
that
do.
move a couple times
Because like
actually.
that would have been really cruel not to shoot him in the head after.
Yeah,
I also liked that there was never like, oh, they thought they killed the person, but they weren't dead.
yeah,
You know?
yeah.
Like everyone made sure that whoever they wanted dead was dead.
Except
were a
for
lot of-
possibly one exception, which we'll get to shortly.
Well, yeah.
So I did think it was awesome that John Wick always like double tapped. Like he always made sure they were dead. Every single person.
And anytime he was about to fight someone important, he was out of ammo.
Yeah. Should we get to that ending? Should we talk
Let's
about
no,
Yeah,
let's talk about
forget it.
something
All
else.
right. Part 2? That'll just be me and you.
Let's just talk. There's some characters we haven't covered yet. First of all, the head of the Osaka Continental.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I thought he was awesome. He went out like a boss.
Yeah.
Like, that's what I wanted, right?
Yeah.
Like it's like I know at this point, like I'm dead and I'm not stopping.
Right. Kane said to him something like, "You should protect your daughter," and then Koji was like, "I am,"
Yeah.
and then ran back. Yeah, that was the sword fight I was talking about earlier.
Yeah.
It was awesome. I loved. I mean, the John Wick aesthetic works so well in Japan. I was so
Like
happy when we cut to
the
Osaka.
modern mixed with the old and the traditional, and like the lighting in every scene was amazing.
Yeah.
I really want to go back to Japan
I
after
know.
seeing that.
I think the in terms of COVID protocols, it's gotten a little bit easier. So next episode might be coming to you from the Osaka Continental. Well, they did blow it up.
It's
I
been
forget.
deconsecrated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
decon-
Well, so
Well-
now we can go there as non-assassins.
We leave a path of deconsecration.
Yeah.
That's wherever we go.
And his daughter.
Yeah.
They're
She was
they're
great.
definitely setting her up for
Akira.
something important.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Like, I mean, we can talk about the after credits thing. Like, there's no reason it had to. Just chronologically, it was at the end, but like,
Yeah, go ahead.
so she's basically seeking revenge on Kane's daughter now.
Well, no, she's seeking revenge on Kane,
Oh.
I think, for killing her father.
Do you think?
But
I mean,
it feels a little misguided.
Yeah,
he
I was
didn't
gonna-
really have a choice.
I was gonna say, do you feel like would she in real life would she
And
want
I-
revenge against him?
And
when
I
it's-
don't know if her father would have wanted her to do that. Probably not.
Yeah, it's
Definitely
really
not.
the high table. Like those guys are real
Yeah,
jerks.
all the three, John Wick, Kane, and Mr. Nobody should all team up to take that. Not even the high table, whatever's above that. Like they've made it clear, like there's something that goes higher than that, right?
Well, but Mr. Nobody, I mean, he mostly just cared about his money. Although I guess we saw a change
yeah, but
at
I
the
just
end.
like him working.
He was
with
awesome.
them.
But
I
by
just
the-
wanted to be part of it.
What was the deal there? Why did he have to do that whole knife thing in the hand, whatever?
It's like loyalty.
No, but all he wanted was the bounty, and the bounty was available to anybody. That bounty.
I don't like
when-
your tone.
I'm just saying when he
Because clearly
negotiated.
you missed something.
When
I
he
feel like it
negotiated
wasn't-
a higher bounty,
Well,
it
no,
went to
because
everybody.
because I'll say in part here's why, because the deal they were making was a little different. Okay, yeah, if he killed John Wick, he would get money, but also he was also just tracking and informing, and I think that was buying him some kind of something from them, some kind of reward.
Okay.
Now, especially because then when he was on the phone in that house, and they're like, okay, like now kill John Wick, and he's like, that wasn't what I agreed to, and he's like, we paid for your services, so like
Right.
they kind of messed the deal up on him, but he really thought he's gonna make money either way.
Yeah.
At first, you're right. The deal was just tracking.
Yeah.
That's right.
Put your hand on the table, Adam.
Sorry.
Now,
Very nice.
why did he pull it out so slowly? He couldn't just go.
No, I think he was struggling.
Yeah,
with
I
that.
don't think you can just pull it out fast.
But
like
there's
that.
nothing. It's right between the bones.
By the way, Adam, you're a medical expert. Is the hand screwed after that? I mean, like
No, because it's not cutting.
there's no. There's no tendons.
That's what I'm
there.
saying. So I feel like it's just
Well, no, it depends
Tissue.
though. What if it ended
and
up?
it's muscles in your palm.
Yeah, I mean, but the knife could have ended up right in a tendon here that he could have torn
No,
apart more.
because the tendons go right above and below the bone. If
Yeah.
they went right in between,
You don't think the knife went into the bone? Oh, it
No.
must have gone between the bones.
no, because then if it went into the bone, he wouldn't have been able to just pull it out.
Interesting. So it was just painful, but it didn't permanently damage his hand.
Just as an aside, there was a lot of body modification in this movie.
That's true.
What other body modification
branding?
was there? Yeah.
When he joined the
But
back into the family.
Branding is like not very badass body modification compared to like the knife thing.
I don't know. Did you see his hero's skin sizzled?
Yeah, it's fine. You
And-
All right, we're gonna
do
brand
that.
for Patreon subscribers only.
Yeah.
We're gonna brand Daniel with the OneTake logo.
Because
at the end of
not a
Daniel,
big deal.
quote, branding is no big deal. I love, you could hear the skin like
I have
rip.
friends that are branded.
It was like stuck to the
Yeah.
pot.
I mean, they're minor brandings, but I have friends that have brands.
2 hours later, he's going to call me. You got to cut that part out.
Yeah.
You got to cut that part out.
But it's usually on a
Glute?
softer tip. Yeah, it's usually on the glute. I've not seen it personally.
Yeah,
He's
Mr.
the, like
Nobody
the
was,
next guy. He's been branding people.
I personally am not branded. I
the
swear.
Mr. Nobody guy was great. I love that he was literally just saving John's life so he could wait for the bounty to go higher and higher
Yeah.
before killing
That
him.
was a fun. Like that gave me almost like a westerny type vibe. Like you have a character who's like chaotic neutral.
Yeah.
Or
Right.
something. Like,
His sketchbook was cool too.
Yeah, that was awesome.
and it was a good way to show us his motives early on because you see he has like a cutout of like some mansion in Wyoming. I think like his goal is to make a bunch of money then get out.
Yeah, he
Now
had a tracker
he's
of his
screwed
money
because
too.
he's never gonna get out now. You know, I think once you're in this, first of all, I think once you're in, you can't get out. But especially once you've made deals with the high table, like, yeah, in theory, his deals should be over and done with. But I don't know.
If you dip one pinky in that swamp.
What do you think are the
And remember,
motives?
Kane warned him not to make a deal, and then 2 minutes later, you hear him screaming, and you see Kane just like, I told him.
What are the motives of the high table? I guess like they're running a hitman operation, right? So they're just making a bunch of money.
How many
Now-
people need to be assassinated that you need like 7,000 assassins?
Now the high table, like, is that French guy? Is he the head of the high table?
No. I think
No.
he's just some like an aristocrat that was in the organization, and he was appointed by the high table with the
Like their
charge
prime
of killing
minister
John
kind of?
Wick.
Ah.
Yeah, like I think
What
they,
I'm wondering is the high table not even as high as it goes? Like, it seems to me like the high table is subservient to whoever that bearded guy who is adjudicating the rules of the duel. It seemed almost like he's a representative from an even higher organization.
Yeah, do you know who that guy was?
I don't know.
Maybe we'll do some research.
He
Well,
had a cool scar.
in what John Wick is really about, Chapter 4, I think that might be explained because
Possibly.
that's really more of a what it's really about, not just what it's
Let me
about
see.
thing.
Jay Gramont. That was the French guy. According to the John Wick fandom,
Well,
I like.
I'll
He was
say
fun. He
this.
was a funny character.
high-ranking member of the high table.
okay, so
Yeah,
he's,
but he was responsible. Like, they made it clear that he was not even close to being at the top of like.
No,
But
but
he
he was,
was-
assigned to be the one to take down John.
there was a point made repeatedly in this movie though that it wasn't about the the members of the high table, but the high table itself. Right? The idea is you can kill people.
It's like an
but
entity unto
yes,
itself.
the
And it's almost like a
organization-
religion. Like,
Yes, the organization lives on. It's not
Yeah.
the flesh and blood people.
It's like a secret society. It's like the
Yeah.
Illuminati.
So I don't know that it needs to go above the high table. It's just there's so much belief and power behind this organization.
it's interesting. It is a cool world building thing that they've done here.
Yeah. Well, which I think is one of those like little special things about this franchise, where it's not just amazing action, is also this whole alternate world that creates an excuse to have these crazy fights happening.
Yeah, and in many ways, I mean, it is very similar to the idea of a superhero universe. Like,
Yeah.
the idea of a world of assassination. That sounds like the premise of a comic book.
Right.
Yeah.
Like every Marvel movie is like thousands of years ago, there was another dimension or this other secret society. Yeah. And here we have one at least. should we talk about the ending?
Wait, how nice was it when he says that his dog is the emotional support animal?
Oh, yeah.
Or whatever, but he's the emotional
Yeah, that was
support
great.
animal for his
Well,
dog.
in the moment of John killing the person who had their gun on the dog was awesome.
Yeah.
Very heartwarming.
He's such a likable character. John Wick is like, you can't not like him.
Yeah.
Anyway, if you want to hear what we think about John Wick's, the ending, subscribe to the Patreon.
Yeah, but we're also talking about here.
I'm just kidding.
All right, let's talk about the ending,
I was just trying to stall from talking about the ending to piss people off.
which is good. Yeah, we should definitely piss people off as much as we can. Let's talk about it. Okay, we get to the duel, and it's been this great setup the whole movie of John and Kane are obviously friends, which I feel like they did such a good job in the dynamic between them, where without seeing the history, I mean, this character appeared all of a sudden in chapter 4.
Wait, okay, had we seen him before?
No, I don't think so.
In Ip Man.
I thought he seemed familiar, but I couldn't remember if I remembered him from prior John Wick movies or if they just introduced him.
Ip Man.
Well, I think he was.
I never even saw it.
Really? You never saw Ip Man?
No.
No, I don't think he was in any previous John Wick movies.
Okay.
But I
But
definitely.
they clearly made him take his own eyes.
Yeah.
The high table made him do that.
Right. Yeah, he says at one point, I took my eyes, they didn't take them from me. I assume it was similar to when John gave
cut
up his
his finger,
finger. You know, something was
Those
going
are
on there.
equivalent.
Yeah, they're the same thing. That's right. So you're wondering, how are they going to work out this situation? One has to kill the other.
It was a very creative, so it was very clever the way they solved it.
Yeah.
My only problem with it is it depended on the French guy doing something really stupid. And even in the theater, someone yelled out, "You stupid fucking idiot."
Yeah.
But
As soon as he said, "I want to take the finishing shot" or whatever, you heard the guy in the crowd shout that.
But we did kind of know his fatal flaw was arrogance. Like, that was kind of seeded throughout the movie.
It fits the character. I don't disagree with that. It still bothers me, though.
But it wasn't a given. Like, it didn't need to happen that way. It could have happened another way. But it's great that it happened.
But it was
this
like
way.
the only solution that gave us everything we wanted. Right?
It
It was
basically-
the only way that John could be freed from his debts to the high table, that King could be freed from his, that neither of them has to die, and the French guy does die.
All right, let's-
Everything worked out
Didn't
perfect.
give us. It didn't give us
Now-
everything we wanted because John Wick died.
Well,
Well,
let's get to
we
that.
don't know.
Well, all right, let me just, in case people don't remember exactly
Yeah.
what happened. Okay, basically, John challenged the French man, whose name escapes me.
The Marquis.
The Marquis.
That's his title.
Okay,
Marquis de Sade.
he John challenges him to a duel, and basically, if John wins, he's free from the high table, and Winston gets to be.
Oh, he threw that. That was funny the way
He
he said
still
it.
wants to run a hotel for the high table
He
after all
loves-
this.
He has nothing else.
He
loves
loves.
that.
He loves hotel management. That was
Yeah.
his true passion.
Go
was-
to Cornell
it all-
Hospitality.
It all started with Sim Tower when he was a kid.
Yeah.
I love that game.
The bings and bongs of the
can't-
elevators going up and down.
He can't work for Hilton.
Wait, let's milk this out a little bit more before we get to the ending. We should talk a little bit about Winston. We saw a lot more of his character in this. We saw a lot more of his sense of humor come
Yeah.
through. And I just love the loyalty and friendship between him and John Wick, and also the love he had for Sharon,
The concierge.
The concierge. The fact that he died so early in the movie makes me think that, now for people who don't know, the actor,
Lance Reddick.
yeah, he passed a few days, like a week ago, 2 weeks ago maybe. I'm and they said natural causes, they didn't say what it was, but my assumption is that he was sick with something that they knew about, and so maybe he couldn't act in the movie for
I'll say I don't know if that's
I don't
true.
think it
I
was
don't think that's true.
necessary. People like that character, and
Hmm.
he could have died, but they could have saved it for the end rather than the beginning. Or it didn't seem necessary that he dies so early in the film, except for real life reasons.
So first of all, I don't
lack of
think that's
availability
right,
for
to
the
be
actor.
honest. I don't think they knew. I don't think it was written for that reason. And I could see a story reason why you would do it, which is that you want to sort of reignite our passions for why we should be so mad at the high table.
Yeah.
So they kill a beloved character.
And it was okay, and it was a smart setup because they're basically, he said it was to send a message, which is that they're going to go after the Osaka Continental guy. They're going to go after his concierge, who happens to be his daughter.
right.
So it was a threat to him.
Mhm.
So that makes sense, but it's still, I don't know. It made when he died early, my first thought was, they figured out a way to write it in because they knew the actor maybe was sick.
It's tough. It's hard to separate.
Well, we probably
it.
will
I
never
mean,
know.
It literally happened days before you saw the movie. So when it happens that early on, it's impossible not to think of it.
Either way, he was a great character.
He was, and I did love that we got a decent amount of screen time between him and Winston.
Yeah.
Before it happened. What was the line they both repeated? It was like,
such is life.
Such is life. Yeah.
I also love how the concierge was always the one to basically because like dogs weren't allowed. He was always the one to volunteer to like take care of John Wick's dog.
Care of him.
Yeah. I could see him behind this, like you know, when he doesn't have to look all cool, just being like, "Who's a good boy?"
Yeah.
You know.
Don't you think Winston and Morpheus could have gotten John Wick a little closer to the church? Like they just left him on his own that night. Don't you think they could have helped him?
Or like give him some security or something.
It was the classic, like, I can take you no further.
Yeah.
You must continue on your own.
I've gone this far.
It's too dangerous.
Yeah.
Like, couldn't they have just hidden him somewhere and then put him in a car and driven him to the church? Sorry, not to complain.
Well, you know, if they did that, then something would have been written into.
They would have found a
that
way.
stuff I have no problem with for some reason.
That's fair. It would have
because it makes for more tension and stuff. But I agree, it doesn't. I don't see a reason why they couldn't help him more.
Like he doesn't even sneak there. Like he just walks out of the subway.
I also love the idea that Lawrence Fishburne's character has like a network of homeless people globally.
Yeah. Well, he's expanding now. This is new, I think. Yeah.
And I love that he's got this like some insanity, you know, but like he's very effective and capable. And he somehow survived everything so far.
He was cool.
But he's like walking around like, I am a king.
Yeah, long live the king.
Yeah,
He's sort of
he's
opened
he's
the
an
movie.
awesome character.
He was kind of the one. It was sort of like before a boxing match.
Yeah.
He was sort of talking up John in that tunnel.
Yeah.
While John was punching that post.
That
which
was cool.
Pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So circling back, basically John challenged the Marquis to a duel. And if he won, he was free. Winston got his hotel back.
Wasn't it a little convenient that this is just like a rule that's on the books? It's like you can, you know.
I mean, there's a lot. Wasn't it convenient that in this movie there happens to be an entirely alternate secret society of assassins?
But dueling,
it's also very believable.
Yeah, dueling used to be like a
I'm
real thing.
at this point I'm kind of being a caricature of myself now.
So the Marquis though, he throws a little curveball in there. He's not going to be the one dueling John. Yeah. It's going to be Kane, John's friend. So the two of them have to fight. We don't want Kane to die because we want him to be with his daughter, and we want her to be free from the High Table's clutches.
Now, who is the Marquis' like right-hand man who told him that it was crazy to nominate a blind man?
The henchman?
Yeah, I liked him. He was a good top henchman.
Yeah, and that's when he was
kind of
like,
reminded me of John Travolta.
Yeah.
Okay, I can see that. Yeah, similar head shape. I feel like. He was the one who was like, it's crazy to trust it to a blind man. Yeah. He's like, oh, I have a feeling John's not going to make it to that duel. Yeah. And I was like, you're an idiot. You didn't watch the first 3 movies. So how are they going to get out of this pickle? So basically, they exchange shots a couple of times. John takes a few bullets. Kane takes a few bullets. But on their final exchange, John did not shoot his gun. So he's on the ground. He's bleeding out. And the Marquis figures, let me take the final shot. I'll just kill him like that, easily. Gets in front of John. Turns out John did not fire his gun in the last round. See, I didn't know that.
I realized it. So I was like, he still has a shot. I was thinking it.
For the record, I also knew it.
Great for you guys.
Nice job.
Here's the world's smallest violin.
But that's for sad things. You're like a trumpet to celebrate.
Well, I'm sad.
Yeah.
So he gets in front of John, and then Winston's like, you arrogant moron. Yeah. He never fired his gun. And then John shoots him. He dies. So everything kind of works out beautifully.
Especially because now you know. See, if he just got shot and in that instant died, he would never have the second of feeling stupid.
Right.
Before he like
they got to
exits this world. He got to have one final moment of, oh, I'm an idiot.
Right. They rubbed salt in a wound that wasn't even there yet, which was great. So now John gets to go free, and Kane and his daughter are free. Yeah. Seemingly.
So it worked. It was the perfect solution.
And then John sits down and he says, Helen. And then...
Oh, I thought he said heaven.
No, he didn't say heaven.
I don't know why. I just thought I heard him say heaven. And then it actually was appropriate because later they were like, do you think he went to heaven or hell?
No, so he said his wife's
But it makes more sense that he said Helen.
So is John Wick dead?
Loving husband.
Yeah.
Okay, why?
No, he's not dead. That's my opinion.
Why didn't they give him any medical attention?
Maybe it's not cool to like get rushed in an ambulance to like. It's cooler just to die in that situation.
Well, yeah, I feel like you're. I don't know why you're so mad at the movie.
Why
I feel
didn't they give him medical
about
attention?
20 minutes ago, Daniel took a turn where he's just angry at this movie for some reason. But I mean, clearly the language of the movie at that point was this is a completely mortal wound. There's no coming back from it. So let me die. I mean, that's what they were saying. I'm not saying medically if it's accurate or not. And then in the world of
I'll
this,
say this. He was ready to, he accepted death in that moment.
Yeah, he
right?
said to him, like, they'll take me home, right? Like basically saying, am I going to be buried next to my wife?
Yeah, loving husband.
Yeah, which was a great moment too. I love that. But the language of the scene was they both accept there's no saving him and John wants to die at that point. Right? That's what the scene was telling us.
Yeah.
I thought he wanted to go home.
Yeah.
It's cool in retrospect that when he was when he was on the boat in the sewer with Morpheus.
Yeah.
Like it's almost like being like, actually interestingly enough, in like the mythology, Charon is the person who like rows you down the river Styx to the underworld in like Greek mythology. So, but like he's like being like, it's like he's like being brought to the underworld, like.
Which there was they've said behind the scenes they took a lot of inspiration from Greek mythology.
Yeah, there you go.
Just I've acknowledged that, so nobody's saying anything.
Anyway, I thought it was a very like cool ending, and I think that because it shows like he freed himself and he got vengeance, and now he can die peacefully. That said, I don't think he's dead.
But
I think that there's just as much, like he's survived worse, first of all. Second, I want more John Wick, and I love the character too much for him to just be dead. Third, the death, if it was a real death, could have felt a little more, there could have been a little more oomph to it. Like it could have hit a little harder. I don't think they played it as seriously as they would have if it was a real death. And also, I think it's equally likely that they decided to fake his death or just give the world the outside impression that he's dead because the extra anonymity can only help him if he wants to live a life of peace now.
Yeah. I agreed with all that. I think it's funny to debate whether or not he's dead.
Because the writers probably don't even know for sure, right?
That's what I mean, the real answer.
Like they can decide whenever they want.
Yeah, I think the correct answer, is he dead or not, is that he's dead until they decide he isn't. And clearly it was played ambiguously enough in the movie that you don't know for sure.
And I think that was well done because in a lot of movies, they go for that ambiguity, but it's like obvious that there's no possible way that the character's dead or something. Like, no, they're going to make too much money by having another one to not bring. But in this one, I left being like, I felt like a kid again watching a movie with an ambiguous ending where I'm like, he can't really be dead though, right? And then I'm looking around for reassurance because I want to make sure other people feel that way. Because if not, then maybe I'm just hoping against hope that he's still alive somehow. Right.
And I was hoping against hope because, well, first off, I have to say a lot of the coverage of this movie, I have a lot of risks.
They're all spoiling it.
A lot of risks I want to slap. Because the headlines for several publications were, is John Wick really dead? Yeah. Like, the movie came out hours ago. And then some of them,
and this is just if you Google John Wick. It's not like John Wick ending.
If you Google John Wick.
So even if you're just looking for movie times, you're going to see the spoiler instantly.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think some of them realized the error and they changed the headline, but Google doesn't like re-index it right away, or maybe they didn't update the metadata. Whatever it is, the Google search result still says, is John Wick dead?
Why do you need to realize this error? Like, these are media professionals, right? Who like
media professionals.
No, like,
saying a lot.
Their job.
We're more professional than they are.
This video is going to be titled John Wick dead.
But like, their job is to cover movies. How do they not think about this? Like, they're just
HBO Max. Okay. During when Game of Thrones was still going, spoiler for a show that you really shouldn't care about spoilers for.
You're gonna get us in more trouble.
This is not a controversial opinion. Before Daenerys' dragon got killed and fell into the frozen river or frozen lake or whatever, when you go to click on that episode, you see a giant picture, like the hero image on the website is of an ice dragon. Like, what the hell?
Like, we're going to make our thumbnail for this
That was
video.
before I saw the episode.
John Wick tombstone.
Yeah, I saw somebody in the row in front of us took out their camera and took a
saw that
picture
too.
of the tombstone.
Yeah.
And now I lost my train of thought because I wanted to slap the publication's wrists for that spoiler.
Wrist slapped.
Yeah, and for something else. I forget.
And just general being bad.
Yeah. What were we talking about? Is John Wick alive?
Yeah.
Okay. So I guess for me, I didn't love it. Oh, yeah. Okay. So I'll come back to that in a second. Here's the other wrist slap I wanted to give. I saw an article that was, is there a post-credit scene? And they said, yes, there is. And then the next question is it like just a stupid gag that you can skip, or is it important? And they were like, it
was a blooper reel.
Is one of the most important post-credit scenes you've ever seen. It's incredibly impactful for the future of the series. And so having that in the back of my mind, when I saw John
You're
die,
like, no, he's definitely you're going to see him alive, like at a cafe in France.
Exactly. But instead, it was what we talked about earlier, which, and I guess it is impactful, and I think the idea is that there's consequences to everything. So Kane thought he was free. That's right. Kane thought he was free. He went to go see his daughter, but then it turns out that, what's her name?
Akira,
Koji's daughter, is there for revenge. Cut. That's the end of that scene. Maybe if I hadn't read that article, I would agree it's really impactful. But when it comes right after the death of our protagonist, I guess
like that pales in comparison.
Yeah. But
now, I do think like there's set up right there for how, even if John Wick is free from the high table and all of his obligations, there's like basically every time one problem is solved, two more problems get created for him, right? So like the mess is still going. There's still this tangled web of loyalty and murder and need for revenge.
Yeah, that revenge cycle just never ends. So back to the question of, is John really dead? And is it ambiguous?
The post-credits thing does not have anything to do with it, and the article is...
Well, can't you see John Wick in the background in that?
Well, so apparently... So I guess first off, in the ending we saw, there's no body. In terms of the dialogue, you could read into it where they say, is he in heaven or hell? And he's like, I don't know. Kind of a I don't know where he is.
I don't know. He says, I don't know where he is.
Right. So you could read a double entendre there that maybe he's literally saying, John's gone to disappear. I'm not keeping tabs on him.
The writers definitely know that that's one read.
Right.
On that line.
I'm about to go into some behind the scenes talk. If you like the ambiguity of the ending, and you don't want to hear the directors or writers weigh in, then leave now.
Yeah. Well, and then come back. And
we'll put like a timestamp.
I'll put chapter markers. So the director, Chad Stahelski, has said that they filmed a version that leaned further into, he didn't say specifically what, but there's an alternate ending which heavily hints that John Wick faked his death and he's actually still
Winston
alive.
goes, I don't know where he is.
But I guess test audiences didn't like it, so they cut some of that out and made it, I guess, more ambiguous, or took out some of the hints that he's still alive.
There's an asterisk next to John Wick's name on the tombstone.
On top of that, Keanu Reeves and Chad Stahelski, the director, have both said, yeah, we might do a John Wick 5. We're thinking about it. Basically, the original plan, by the way, so they announced there was going to be a fifth one. It was going to be filmed with the fourth one, so they could release them in fast succession. But the director decided not to do that. He basically said, and I really respect this opinion, that he doesn't want to just make the same movie over and over. And he spends a few years between each John Wick movie. He's learning more. He's coming up with new ideas. He's changing as a person. So he brings a fresh perspective to each one. So he didn't want to, if he did two movies together, he said it would be like John Wick 4 and John Wick 4A. So he wants to take time off, and it sounds like he probably wants to take more time off between 4 and 5, if there is a 5.
That's lazy.
Yeah, right. So the fact that they're both open to not a spin-off, but to a John Wick 5 tells me what we said before, which is that John Wick is dead, if you want to believe that, until they decide he isn't. Because there is nothing in those final scenes that can't be contradicted by Well, he faked his own death. And why did they go to his grave? It was just to remember a man they might not see again, because the hope is that he disappears and he truly stays retired this time.
Okay. Now here's the most flagrant example of something I didn't, the over the top thing that was too silly that I did not like. I am Klaus.
Yeah, that was really cartoonish.
Yeah.
He just said, it was
and
like,
that's not even, I mean, we've seen this a million times where there's some kind of scary character who can only say one thing. I don't know how that became a trope in movies and whatnot, but like we've seen that before. It was funny the first time he said it, but even then I was rolling my eyes at it a little bit, and then he did it 2 more times.
yeah,
Exactly.
And even that wasn't new, you know?
It was basically, wasn't it in Hot Fuzz? There's that one, Yerp, where he just said that's everything. Yeah.
It's just like some weird trope of like a mentally challenged, like
goon.
super strong goon guy.
Right.
So I don't know. That was just unnecessary. Yeah, it made me laugh the first time. Like I'll give him that, but felt out of place. I don't know what just made me.
I'm taking notes for the Adam cut where I'll cut that part out.
But anyway, sorry, that just came to me. We didn't really react to what you were saying about the.
Well, I think it's just
it speaks for itself.
I will say, that it was hard for me to get emotionally invested in the idea that John Wick is dead, when all I was thinking is he really dead? Are they going to bring him back?
Yeah.
I never fully felt myself mourn or grieve for John Wick.
If they wanted it to be definitive, they would have shown us his body in the casket.
And honestly, if they did that, I would have just been so pissed, because I don't want them to kill John Wick. So I guess this is, again, another one of those caveats of it's just what I'm looking for from the movie. But I can't imagine a scenario where they kill John Wick where A, I believe it, and B, I'm not just super mad about it. I don't know what the ending could have been. It's really challenging, because they obviously wanted to make this they wanted to make a conclusion. They didn't want to make this just an open-ended franchise that goes on forever. But it's hard to let go these days. I mean, you always want more, and I always want more John Wick. So it's hard for me to imagine what a satisfying ending would be for this movie. But I'm curious how other people felt, you know? The future, I mean, any final thoughts on John Wick Chapter 4?
Just to be clear, for everything I've said, I really liked it. I don't know where it ranks yet. And you and I were talking about it like right after the movie ended. I was like, okay, the best one was the first one. And then I think like the next 3 are almost tied. Yeah.
So what I'm weighing right now is it's really, for the first one, it's really hard to beat just your first introduction to the world.
Yeah.
Like the fight scenes in this new movie are probably, I mean, they're definitely better. They're more creative. They're crazy. They're wacky. But there's just nothing like that feeling of meeting John Wick for the first time. At the same time, there were some things I didn't love in the first one. When they tie him up and they
like leave him alone.
Yeah, they tie him up and they send a couple goons to put a plastic bag over his head. It felt super far-fetched.
Like, this is the Baba Yaga. This is like a legendary...
Who's trying to kill your son. He's right in front of you. And I didn't love the final battle, the one-on-one fight between him and Vigo. Versus Chapter 4, where there is not a single action sequence where I got bored. So those are the kind of the things I'm weighing, you know? I mean, do we have to pick one that's better than the other? I don't know.
They're all great.
Yeah.
I would take all of them.
I will. I'll take more.
I did, and I want more, yeah.
What about you, Daniel? What are your closing thoughts on Chapter 4? Any thoughts on how you rank it in the series or anything else?
No, it was awesome. That's all I want to say.
All right, that's it.
I loved it.
We will for sure see John Wick again soon, actually. They're doing that spin-off, The Ballerina, which I believe will take place between 3 and 4. Keanu Reeves has already filmed an appearance for it.
Now I keep forgetting. Is it a movie or a show?
That's a movie.
Okay.
That's going to be a movie.
And that's called The Ballerina.
The Ballerina.
And then they're making a show called The Continental.
Right, which takes place in the 70s.
About a young Winston.
About a young Winston. Mel Gibson's going to be in it.
It's
interesting.
Yeah.
It's going to be 3 episodes, but I think each episode.
I bet Mel Gibson will be the former Continental manager, and Winston takes over for him.
I think that's right. I think
I just came up with that.
I think they said he's basically the mentor to Winston. And I think they said it's only going to be 3 episodes, but each episode will basically be like feature length.
That's cool.
Wow.
And it'll be on Paramount Plus.
Oh man. Okay, and what do we know about Ballerina?
Not
Between
a whole lot.
third and fourth movie, it's going to focus on
I think a character we met in John Wick 3 where they introduced
one of the ballet people.
Yeah, I think no, but I think the character in John Wick 3 was like in the background, so no guarantee it's even going to be the same actress. We know it's about someone getting revenge for someone killing their father, I think, but I assume it'll be similar action, and it'll be awesome.
Nice.
So I think with that, let's wrap it up. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, subscribe, hit the bell icon for more. If you're interested in even more, check out our Patreon. For every What Blank is Really About video lately, I've been doing an extra few minutes on the Patreon. I did one for John
Stuff
Wick.
that's too hot for YouTube.
Exactly. Stuff I put on YouTube, there wouldn't be a channel.
Yeah.
So I'll put a link in the description. Check that out. Anything else?
Are there people who might be listening to this on like
You got we're on all the podcast apps.
Yeah, if you prefer to listen, you can, I don't know. This is we're figuring out like what we're going to do with OneTake podcast. It might just be semi-regular like this, where if there's a movie or a show.
It's on a need to pod basis.
Right.
This was a movie we had to talk about.
We're not going to just pod for anybody. Yeah. James Cameron, he was begging us. Guys, Way of Water, come on. Way better than Better Call Saul.
I slept through a full hour of that in theaters and still saw the majority of the movie.
But yeah, I guess if you do want to listen to this, I'll put it on the podcast stream. You can find us in any podcast app. If you're
we're streaming video games.
And if you're listening, subscribe to the YouTube channel.
Right.
Video games.
We stream video games sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we streamed Resident Evil 4 recently. Dead Space, Overwatch. We're streaming video games on OneTake. So just stay subscribed. Check the bell icon. You'll get notified for the live streams and anything else.
We have YouTube videos.
That's right. That's right.
All types of things.
It's something for everyone.
Yeah.
Eddie Bravo subscribes.
Yeah. That's the biggest endorsement.
Adam, I'll give you the final word.
Yeah. I'm thinking I'm back.
Taking it a step further, they did apparently film an ending which leaned further into...
Wait, some people might not want to hear this.
Really?
This could be considered, because this is outside of what was chosen to be shown to us. So,
okay. All right, so I'll cut out what I just said, and I'm going to say something now and then put this before. I'll give a warning. Okay.
You might not want to hear this warning.